Welcome back to another live stream, guys. Today we're going to be diving into some geometric based designs around landscapes. You've probably seen them a lot on t-shirts and scenery based designs, and we're going to be showing you how to make those today. We'll talk a little bit about Photoshop, but mostly we'll be working in Illustrator as well. But I'll try to show you both ways of how you can do it in both programs. So let's jump in and start creating and just follow along and relax with me today and grab some coffee and follow along as I kind of talk you through this. I'm going to try to give you some design tips as I'm going through as well, and just trying to show you how you can create these designs yourself. So let's go ahead and start with two things. We're going to need some shapes and we're going to need some scenery. So I have some scenery already ready to go. So I'm going to start with some basic shapes, and we're going to stick mostly with triangles today. So I'm going to go over to my tool on the side here, and I'm going to go to the star tool here, and if you use your star tool and turn it to 3 points, then we can go ahead and create a triangle. And there's our triangle. Let's switch it to black so you can see what I'm working with here. And I'm going to add a stroke to that as well. And let's put that on the outside. I'll move that over to the gray here so you guys can see what I'm doing. And like I said, guys, we're just going to try to create some geometric designs and show you exactly how that process is done. And if you guys have any questions about designing, anything about Spreadshop, feel free to ask, as I'm doing this live and I'll try to help my best to try to help you guys out. Overall, I'm just trying to give you some design tips and show you just how easy it is to create a geometric design for your own t-shirt, or just something you might want to do for a wallpaper or whatever you're looking to actually create yourself. So I'm going to create two triangles here real quick. I think I'm going to start with like a basic shape where I'm going to have one triangle here and one triangle flipped here. And I'm trying to create the basic layout of what I want here initially. And I think we're going to merge these two objects. So let's take off these two strokes here real quick. I'm going to move this one to the side because I want this to be one solid rectangle here. So there's a few ways we can do that, but I'm just going to merge these two together real quick. So let's just take out the strokes so we can see what we're working with exactly. And then we can go ahead and grab those and merge them together. And so now we have a nice backdrop for our main design here. And you'll see why we do that here in just a moment. And then we're going to add our stroke back over here. And make sure that's on the outside like we did before. And so we have these two triangles right here so we can use them for isolation for our actual scenery layers. So let's go ahead and get started with that real quick. And I'll show you exactly how that works. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go grab some scenery real quick. So I'm going to pull in like a mountain range, I think. And this is Illustrator working in right now. So it's going to drag and drop that in. There we go, we have a mountain range. And so that I'm working with the highest quality I can here in this image, I'm going to try to match my vector to be the size of this pixel-based image. So I'm going to grab both of these real quick and just resize them to be as large as I can to fit the scenery that I'm working with here. And so I know I'm going to put this in one of these triangles here. So somewhere around like that is probably where I'm going to be looking. So that should work. I'm going to get these two elements aligned. And so what I can do now is I have a few options to kind of see exactly how I'm trying to isolate this. In particular, I can change this to a stroke. Which might be the easiest way, or I can turn the opacity down to either one of those as well. But for now, we can just turn that to a stroke and see exactly how we want to align this. Ungroup these two objects, and I just want my top selection here. And so what I'm going to do is select the image and my shape. And normally the easiest way to do this is just go up to Object, Clipping Mask, and go Make. And so I have my isolated layer there. And after, what's nice, if I want to make any adjustments, I can double click on that layer and I can move that object around within that shape. So I can align it exactly how I want it to look. So I think it looks pretty good. So we have our top color there. And I think I'm going to go with like a completely different scenery image for the bottom one. So we're going to have like two clashing of two different sceneries. So we got a beach, add that to the back. And same thing, I'm going to align that exactly how I want it. And I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut this time. So I'm going to select my shape again and the imagery. And then I'm going to just do Command 7 for the shortcut. And now we were able to isolate that layer. And again, if we double click it, we can further customize that to be exactly how we want it to be. I think I like it with just a little bit more water in there. Again, guys, while I'm creating here, feel free to ask any questions about any of the designs I'm creating, but I'm just trying to show you guys how you can make your very own geometric designs at home. I'm working Illustrator right now. If you don't have access to Adobe Suite, there's two different programs you can download for free just to kind of follow along. In this case, since it's working in a vector-based program, then the most closely related free program is going to be called Inkscape, and you can download that for free. And then there's a pixel-based program too you can download for free as well. It's going to be similar to Photoshop, which is called GIMP. You can download either one of those to follow along if you don't have access to Adobe Suite. So we have our base scenery there, which I'm liking the way that looks. Looks pretty cool. And so you can see why we made the imagery over here. So we can actually pull that back now and center it right on our design here. And we got a nice stroke on the outside of our design that's nice and clean. And I think that's looking pretty good. And we can even add a stroke to the inside here. So we have the base start of our imagery here, which I'm liking. So I'm actually going to add some additional geometric shapes to this to really start making this image as interesting as possible. So we're going to actually copy the top layer here and paste that to the front. That's Command C, Command F. And we're going to pull that down. And then we're going to go ahead and quickly remove the isolation we made here. So that's Command Option 7. And we're going to take the imagery we have here and we're going to flip that upside down. So we're going to turn our triangle all the way around and reposition that. And then we're going to select our two layers again and pull them back. And I'm going to pull this one down and move it to the front. There we go. And we're going to add I think I stroke that here in a moment, just as soon as we get it positioned the way we want. I think we want it to be a little bit bigger than this, so it's kind of coming off a little bit. Trying to find a good position for that. And like I said, if we double click on any of these layers, we can move these imagery around so that it can fit what we actually want it to look like a little bit better. So I'm going to move that mountain range up so we can have this up a little higher. Now I'm going to add the same stroke that I have to the outside so that kind of all blends together pretty well. And I'm going to adjust this layer just a little bit as well. We could even move it if we want to be a slightly different imagery. And then we're going to do something similar to the bottom here as well, where we're going to grab this bottom layer, copy this to the front. It's Command C, Command F if you're curious. And we're going to shrink that one down as well. And we're going to add a similar stroke to that. And pull that probably up to be underneath a little bit. You can see how we're getting a pretty interesting looking image already. So this is kind of like how quickly you can really make these geometric scenery designs. And it's really cool the way that they kind of come together and kind of create a sense of depth within the actual design. So it's neat to be able to make these and really create something really unique. So if we wanted to, we can even add a stroke to this to separate these two center images as well. So now we kind of have some separation there as well. And then starting from here is where you can start to really add some flourishes. So flourishes are going to be great to really make this something really unique. We can do that in a bunch of different ways. So what I'm going to do here initially here is I'm going to take the images that we made already. So it's going to take this guy, and this guy. We're going to group them. And then I'm going to move this image to the side again. And the reason we made this bottom image is just so we can make adjustments quicker to like the outside stroke or anything like that without affecting our main image here. So we can go ahead and do things that we want to do to this underlying layer a little bit quicker. Like I said, that's with it underneath, just to kind of give you an idea. So what I want to do now, though, is since I have that whole shape layer behind me, I'm going to take this image, and again, I'm going to copy it. Let's turn it to a much larger stroke, so let's go like way out there. And I'm going to just turn off the inside here. Actually, let's hit... What we'll do is we'll hit expand on this real quick. And then we're going to merge that together. So we have one solid image here. And then we're going to center it. And we're kind of just shoeballing this as we go through here. So you're kind of seeing a live design process here as we're creating here. So we kind of have our outside imagery here now. So we got a thicker stroke, which I like that a lot with the outside. A little bit thicker. But we also have options where we can add some flourishes as well. So let me give you an example of that. So let's go ahead and keep that thicker geometric shape we made there and turn this one over here, and let's change this to a stroke. So we're going to flip it to a stroke. We're going to add, I don't know, something, just a small line there, and then we can add something like, I don't know, we can change the uniformity of that stroke, for example. So let's change it to like, let's see here, let's go for like a dashed line. Make it kind of random here. Again, guys, if you have any questions while I'm creating here, feel free to ask. I'll do my best to try to help you out. So we added like just a random flourish there on the outside. You can kind of see how that will look here in a minute. If I center it again on my design here, how we can add like a bit of a flourish, and we can even like offset that to really kind of take away from the perfect geometric, where we can actually pull that like underneath to have it on the outside. We can make it so that it's a little bit smaller as well. So it's kind of just following the outline, and let's pull that over so it's actually hidden underneath a little bit here. And then we can expand that object. So if we select that outside object, we can go ahead and expand. Hit it one more time. And then we can delete any areas we don't want actually showing on the outside here. Let's turn that to like maybe a black and see how that looks like with our other layer we created underneath that. We can even have this be like the punch out in the actual outside here to give it a little more uniformity. Get rid of this bend. And it's a small flourishes like what I'm adding now, which really kind of add to the design and add some different depth. And I don't know if I like it better on one side or both yet. I think I like it just on the one side. So we have a base geometric design there. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. And then we can add some additional interesting images in here as well. So let's go like, for example, let's go to like add a small rectangle here. And say we wanted to kind of highlight these waves a little bit better. What we can do is draw a line. I want to make it real small. Then we're going to go up to Effect, Distort and Transform, and go to Zigzag here. And I want to turn that up, and I want to make sure that's smooth. It's starting to look how I want it to. Hit OK. And we're going to center that. And we're going to go ahead and drag that down about where we want it to end. And we're going to grab those two objects and go up to Object, Blend, Make. And you can see that automatically created a repeated pattern for us, which is what we're looking for. And we have a few options here. We can have it so that it's just on the center object here. So we can go ahead and we can do that either with the Pathfinder tool, or we can go do similar to what we did before we added a clipping mask. We have either one of those options at this point. So let's just see how this looks like real quick. Kind of curious what it looks like extended here. Kind of think I just like it. Let's see how it looks like it just on the center here. So I'm going to take my rectangle here, or I'm sorry, my triangle, ungroup my objects real quick. So I select just that triangle, I copy it to the front here. We're going to move that outline here real quick. Grab this. Just trying to get an idea of how that'll look. We can even change the color if we want of those lines. So we had a little bit more of geometric look in there. We can lighten those up or whatever we want to do, but I kind of like the way that looks. And we have other options we can add too. We can add like more geometric scenery to even the background if we wanted to. So let's just find something fun to add to the back. I don't know, maybe this guy. Kind of curious what that would look like if we pull it to the front. And then we'll save that one for another layout we're going to do. But yeah, you can see how quickly we kind of did something like this. It's a quick geometric design, and you can do so many different variations even just from what we just created there. If we just take the same pattern that we made here and pull some of these imageries over. Good, group that real quick. We can have it so, you know, these two images are more closely connected. Going to remove this inner side for now. Again, kind of the opposing triangles usually works best in these scenarios. So I'm going to grab this image here again, and we're going to go ahead and remove that clipping mask again. I see, okay. And option 7. Let's flip this triangle upside down here real quick. And add our clipping mask back. And then add our stroke back as well. We can center those. Another fun thing too is just to even pull the image into itself. So let's go ahead and add these so that we're not ruining the image we made already. And then I will, so here's our first image here. And so let's pull this one over. And let's remove this one. And let's just go ahead and copy this one, add it to the front. We can shrink that down. I'm going to remove some of my imagery from my other design. We can kind of have these two overlap each other. You can play with layers so you can really pull different imageries on top of each other. and different sizes as well. And let's go ahead and flip this guy real quick. Again, guys, if you have any questions while I'm creating here, feel free to ask, but I'm just trying to show you how quickly you can kind of create a geometric design right within Illustrator. Pull this guy up just a little bit. Let's change the size a little bit as well. And then we have the option to add additional flourishes like just we were before. We can add anything we'd want to the outside here as well. So let's say we wanted to add more of an interesting shape to the outside. So I'm going to copy this layer. Going to make it a little bit bigger. Going to remove that clipping mask. And let's add a background color to that. Send it to the back. And let's make it like a more interesting color so we can kind of see what we're working with. And let's do something similar to what we did before, where we added that line and do it a little bit differently this time. So let's add our line to the top here. And let's add it to the bottom as well. I want to make sure it fits the entirety of this image here real quick. There we go. And I'm going to pull that down to the bottom and center it. And we'll pull it to the top as well. And similar to what we did before, we're going to pull this all the way up to where we want it to start and select the bottom where we want it to stop. Go up to Object, Blend, Make. We'll get the repetitive object there. And what we can do here real quick to preview it, it's kind of what I want to do is cut out this background is what I'm imagining. And to see how that'll look like, we can just change this color of this object to be the color of the actual background here. So we can see exactly what we're working with here. And we can move that so that it fits exactly how we want it to fit on that image. So that's what I'm kind of thinking in the background there. And then to finalize that, if that's the actual imagery that I want to go for, we can leave it as is, or we can just go ahead and go to Object, go to Expand Appearance, do it one more time, hit OK. And then we're going to select the two imageries. So that's actually my backdrop here and my new shape layer I made. I'm going to use our Pathfinder tool. In this case, I'm going to use the Merge tool. You have the option to normally use the minus front tool, but a lot of times that glitches, so we're going to go ahead and use the Merge tool. And we're going to do that really quickly, let that process. And what that's doing is punching out a hole in that actual design. And then from there, what we can do is select the Magic Wand tool, select our lines, hit delete. And I'm going to do that one more time just to remove any erroneous marks. So make sure everything's clean. Looks like everything looks good. So there we go. We got a very interesting shape. Pull that to the front so you can kind of see it. And what's really cool about that with that shape is I can do a lot of things with that shape now. I can leave it in the background, kind of like I have there. I can grab my imagery that I made earlier. So let's go ahead and move this off to the side again. And let's grab one of these here. And I'm going to remove the clipping mask really quick. And since I create a really interesting shape, I can use that really interesting shape to make some fun new cutouts with my clipping mask. So similar to what we did before, I can grab it and place it where I'd want, add the object that I want, add the clipping mask back, and might be a little too complicated for what I'm trying to do. So this would be a good point. So for example, I want this to be cut out of this background, but what's happening now is since this object that I created is very complicated, Illustrator is having trouble doing that. So that's really good time to kind of switch over here and show you a good use case for Illustrator, for example. I'm sorry, Photoshop. So if I go back to Photoshop real quick, I'm going to copy my objects because both these objects, I can just go ahead and select this, paste them into my document as smart objects, which is just the quickest way to do that. And I already have my canvas set up here. That's 4,000 pixels at 300 dpi. And I'm going to copy my new complicated object as well and copy that over to Photoshop as well. And you can also do the layers if you chose to as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and just resize this image to fit the entirety of that triangle. And then I'm going to move it to exactly where I'd want. And what we can do here is we can start working with selection-based tools. Photoshop is a very selection-based program. And so what we can do is go over to our complicated object here. And we're going to create a mask by using a selection. So I'm going to hold Command and click on my complicated vector design that I made, which is what I've got there. And right after that, I can pretty much turn that layer off. And now I'm going to go to the layer with the actual scenery. And we're going to go down and we're going to select the mask tool right here. And what that's going to do is take my selection and then mask the parts of the design here. So there we go. And then I could turn off the background so you can kind of see how that would look on transparent. Let's actually add like a darker background maybe. And so you can see how that looks. And so that's one of the advantages of working with like a selection-based program with this, especially as you get into more complicated cutouts. So let's say if we take this one step further and we like how this is looking, like it's kind of like a fun design we're working with there. We want to really kind of make it look different. Say we want to make like it look distressed, for example. So I can grab a distressed texture, I can create a distressed brush, but I do have some textures that I can go ahead and add real quick. And so we're going to pull in a random texture here real quick. And so pull that to the front so you can see what I'm working with here. And so we have this like distressed looking image we added to the front there. Let me turn off that so you can kind of see it. So it's a really like distressed looking image here, but I want that to kind of punch out through my design. So similarly to what I just did, I'm going to select Command and then click on that layer. It's going to create that and create it as a selection. I'm going to go back to my mask. And from here, you guys got to remember that black blocks and white shows. So I want the black layer to punch out that design. So let me zoom in here so you can kind of see what I'm working with here. So I'm going to select my mask. I want to make sure that I'm selecting the black layer, and then I'm going to fill that layer with the black by selecting my mask, and that's going to punch out that layer. And you can see if I zoom in here how it actually has removed those parts of the design, and now I got a like really cool distressed looking image that I can really start to work with here and making some really cool designs. So this is where things like this are starting to look really neat, that we can start combining additional elements that we made even in our vector-based program. So that's why I like to work back and forth between Illustrator and Photoshop. So let's say we have like this layer, for example, and I like that. Again, I can copy that, pull that back, and paste it right in here. And let's go ahead and just center that on our layer here. So we can kind of start recreating some of the designs we made before. We can change transparency on that. We can add different layering here so we can really make it start to look cool with different layer mask. But as you can see, you have a lot of options. And you can kind of see the advantage where if you get too far into Illustrator, since it is a vector-based program, sometimes the operations you're running, especially with larger designs, might be too complicated if you're jumping back and forth between pixel-based designs and vector-based designs. So in this case, I said it's good to be able to switch over to Photoshop and make those changes really quickly. And so let's go ahead and just expand. Let's go ahead. I kind of like my look of this design here. And let's go ahead and just make it a little bit smaller. And let's add this layer back and just put it underneath. And we can do something like, since we have these two objects here now, I kind of like the way that's looking. We kind of had that beach view, so I'm kind of curious what that would look like with this design as well. So like if we go back, grab that imagery real quick, pull that in. And then I'm going to add the same thing where I'm going to add a mask. So we're starting to get something pretty unique here, which I'm really kind of liking the look of, just by combining those two objects. Stick with that. I'm going to do something similar where I added that flourish with the distressed image again. So there's our distressed image, so we can add that now to the beach layer. So I'm liking the way that looks. We got a kind of a really kind of trippy looking design now with a mountain and a beach kind of combined. And let's just pull in some of the objects we did before just to see if we can add a little bit of something different. Make sure to center everything. I think I want to try to pull all of those together just a little bit. Again, guys, if you have any questions as I'm kind of going through here, feel free to ask any about Spreadshop, about the designs that I'm kind of creating. So I'm getting pretty happy with the looks of this. Something truly kind of unique that we kind of just made live here. I think the last thing I want to do is group these objects real quick. And then what I want to do, let's take a look how it looks like without any the background. Let's zoom in here. that looking pretty cool. Let's add, as one final thing, just because we've been doing it the whole time, let's add just like a general distressed look to the rest of that design. And same thing, we're just going to add a mask to do that. And let's see how that looks like on like a black backdrop. And let's make sure that distressed image covers our whole design. So looks like it is. Let's just move it so we can see how. Okay, it's covering there. And we can move that around too, which is an advantage of kind of pulling in a layer on top. So there we go, guys. There's our final design. I think I'm going to go ahead and save that out real quick. So let's go ahead and make sure it's at spec. So we want this to be 4,000 pixels. So let's go ahead and adjust that. And then make sure it's centered. And then since this image, the height is larger than the width, we just want to make sure to trim the canvas to the size of our design. Image, trim, hit OK. Double check our specs. We're at 4,000 by 300. It's exactly what we want. So we're going to export that design and save that real quick. Save that as a PNG graphic, so PNG graphics support transparency, which is what we want. And let's actually add that to a spreadsheet so we can see how that would look like. So let's go to our Designs tab here. Let's pull in our new graphic. And that'll just take a moment to process, and as soon as we have that popped in there, we'll be able to add that to a product. You can see some of the other designs we made here live as well. Let's go ahead and just add it to a shop real quick. And so that's automatically going to populate and try to add it to products. So let's see how that looks on a product. And let's add it to, I think it's a really good one for like a black t-shirt. We can either try, let's try the fitted cotton poly shirt here because it has some cool colors as well. Got like a heather black, which I think would look good on it too. And we even have stickers that we can make of it, which would be, it's pretty cool looking stickers as well. You can see how it auto populates too, so it automatically creates products for me. We have mugs. And we can add or remove any of these depending on what we actually want to have in our shop. And then we even get a funny, trippy tie-dye shirt, which might be appropriate for this design. I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller here and slide it up. That's how it looks on some other colors. So it's pretty perfect on that product. Let's hit done. Hit next, and then we just have to name it. Let's call it geometric. And then you want to spend a little more time filling out the description if this is your design. hit create. We have our products created here right within our spread shop. So we just have a sample shop, I think, set up for this. Funny enough, I think this would actually look really good. We actually have a shop already that might be perfect for this design. So if I want to add this to another shop, I can do that at any point, just kind of going to edit here. I actually think it would look good under our Digital Frontier shop, so let me add it to that shop real quick and hit apply. So the exact same products I just created are automatically added to my other spread shop. So if I go down to one of the shops that I've created previously here, I can see that product is automatically added, and it kind of fits the theme and look of this shop as well. And then if I select that design, it'll take me in and show me all of the products that are featured with that design. Yeah, guys, but I hope that helped you out and you got an idea of just how you can create some really interesting objects just from simple shapes. You kind of saw me just do that live. We made some different layouts, some different ideas. Ultimately, we kind of made something new and kind of some fun. If you guys are interested in downloading that design, let me know. Comment on this video. This will be under our live section in our actual Spreadshop YouTube after this stream is done. If you're interested in this design, I'll be happy to provide it to you guys for free, and you can add that to your shop and sell it yourself, and even order it yourself if you'd like the design. So thanks again for joining me again today, guys. If you guys have any questions or inquiries about Spreadshop while I'm doing any of these lives, feel free to ask, and also I'll try to follow up afterwards. Just leave a comment, and I'll do my best to jump in and try to help you guys out. But thanks again for joining me again today. So I hope you enjoyed that. Did something a little different, just kind of shot from the hip today and just tried to create something new. I think it turned out pretty cool. Let's show you the design here before we sign out here. And that was our final product. Well, thanks again for joining me again today. Thanks again for joining me again today, guys, and I'll see you again next time.